Hello, everyone. See here. Going to play settings. All right, welcome everyone. I'm Brian Engler from SEB Housing. We're going to wait until a couple people more. We'll probably wait until 6:05 to officially get this started. I am going to put up the first slide of the deck right now. Can people see that okay? We kind of have we have the main slide here, and then we kind of have the next slide over to the side here. If anybody can't see it, you can ping me in the chat and let me know. But again, we'll get this going in the next few minutes. We'll start at 6:05. We have a lot of interest for this lottery, so we're expecting a pretty big turnout for the info session. Slideshow, show taskbar. Right off the bat, again, so I'm Brian Engler. I'm from SEB Housing. We're the affordable housing consultant who was hired by the developer to run the affordable housing lottery. We've done hundreds of these over the years. We do a couple dozen of these a year. We're involved from the early steps on putting together the marketing plan and all the informational materials and the lottery application and getting those approved, in this case by Mass Housing, and launching the advertising campaign. And we're the first point of contact for applicants at this point who have questions about this. Right off the bat, I would say if you have any questions after this info session, I'd encourage you to email us at info@sebhousing.com. I'll get into that in a little bit, but we can answer any questions you have about this application process. Let's see here. Somebody's already asking, is there a minimum income requirement? Yep, and we'll get into that. We'll just wait a couple more minutes here for the room to fill up a little bit. Actually, the person who's supposed to run this actually was unable to, so I apologize that I'm a little bit late here. I'm kind of getting thrown into it, but the good news is over the years, I have probably given myself about 400 information sessions. I've been doing this for 19 years. So most of the information, is the same. The structure is the same. Obviously, the particulars of the development, the rents, the income limits, those change over the years, but the overall gist has not changed. So I guess without further ado, I'll just get into it. This is the information session for the Allee on the Charles in Newton, 52 affordable units. There's a couple different income tiers at this property. There's 5 studios at 80% area median income, 22 one-bedroom units at 80% area median income, 1 2-bedroom at 65% AMI, 18 2-bedrooms at 80% AMI, 1 3-bedroom at 50% AMI, and 5 3-bedrooms at 80% AMI. So you can see the large majority and most of the units here are 80% AMI units. There's really just one unit that's at 65%, which is a lower income tier. I'll show you what that means in a minute. And there's only one unit that's at 50% of AMI. If there's one thing you take away from this info session tonight, it is to get in your lottery application as quickly as possible. We've actually already received 868 lottery applications. So we're still over a month away from the May 23rd deadline. So when all is said and done, we'll probably have over 1,500 submissions. There's obviously a ton of interest in this, which just underscores the need for affordable housing in neighborhoods around in Boston and surrounding Boston, like Newton. The easiest way to apply, this is something that has changed over the years, is by going to this jot form link that we have here. You can also find this on our website, sebhousing.com. If you go to sebhousing.com and go to the affordable housing lottery section, and I could actually even pull that up right here. Why don't I? This is our webpage right here. And you can go to affordable housing opportunities and you will find, as this loads, Allee on the Charles right here. And you click on that and you'll see the jot form link right here, which you can just click on and bam, what is BAM? Bam, here you are. And it's an online application. Now you can also submit documentation by paper application. I can get into that a little bit too, but the online form is very easy to fill out. The good thing about this lottery application is there's no income, assets, or any documentation that's required with it. You just fill out the form and you hit submit, and we get a copy of that application and we'll process it. As of Sunday, every application that's been submitted has been processed. So I think up to now we've processed about 750 applications. We haven't since Monday, but later this week or over the weekend, we'll do the next batch. So anybody who has already submitted an application should have received an email from us notifying them of their status. And when you do apply, you should receive an email from us within generally a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending how busy we are at that time, on the status of your application. So again, if you take anything away, get your application in. That's the most important thing. If you're not into the lottery, then everything else is, that we're going to be talking about is moot. So you really want to find out if you qualify for this as quickly as possible. And that's what happens. You submit your lottery application and we screen it based on the following criteria. Let me take a quick step back. Catherine put this deck together, this PowerPoint deck. So I'm going a little bit off the cuff here, so I might get a little bit ahead of myself. So I'm Brian Engler from SEB Housing. We're the affordable housing group hired by the developer. We are not the leasing office or the property owner. That's an important distinction to make, and I'll get into that later. But we are just the affordable housing consulting group who is doing just the program certification of applicants for this. So for every rental development that you apply for in Massachusetts, there ultimately will be 2 screening steps to it. And sometimes they differ in which one comes first. But ultimately, when in order to qualify for a unit anywhere, once you're in a lottery, you have to be screened both for affordable housing program eligibility, meaning that you're within the income parameters for the program and you meet all the different criteria of the program, which again, I'll get into, but generally that means that you qualify for affordable housing. Your household income is such that you are under the maximum allowable income limits for the program. And if there are minimum incomes, that you're above those minimum incomes as well. It also involves some other screening, like you're not a related party to the developer. You can't currently own a home and live in one of these units. And there's a couple other parameters on which we screen for. which again, I'll touch on in a little bit. That's one screening. The other major screening is by the leasing office or the management company. And that is the same screening that would be done for a market rate unit, which is that they will look at your criminal history. They'll look at your credit, and they'll also make sure that you have enough monthly income to comfortably afford the rent. Just as if somebody was trying to rent a $5,000 a month apartment at Allee on the Charles, and they only made $5,000 a month, they would get denied by the leasing office because they don't have enough income to comfortably cover the rent. I believe in this case, households may have 3 times the monthly rent to qualify for a unit. So again, using that market rate example, if somebody's trying to apply for a $5,000 a month apartment, the leasing office would make sure that they have $15,000 a month in income, which is quite a substantial amount. So similarly, for this program, if the rents are, and I'll get into that in a sec also, but it's say $2,000 a month, a household has to earn about $6,000 a month in order to qualify for that unit. That is the screening that is done at the leasing office level. So I'll talk about how this all works just right now moving forward. So again, I'm from SCB Housing. We're not the leasing office, but we are your main point of contact leading up to the lottery and during eligibility screening, which is really the last step in this process. Our website's here, scbhousing.com. And for any questions that you have, you can email us at any time, info@scbhousing.com. We have a whole team of people, 5 people, that their main job is to respond to those inquiries. They're all very well trained. And if they don't know the answer, they'll put you in touch with somebody who does. And generally, we respond to any inquiry. I mean, I'd say within an hour, sometimes within 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the flow, but we'll certainly get back to you within 24 hours. Or you can also call us at 617-782-6900 and dial extension 1. Let's see here. Okay, moving on. For Allee on the Charles, these are the affordable rents for these units. All the apartments feature in-unit laundry. They have high-end finishes. Property has a courtyard, fitness center, lounge space. It's located near the Charles River. There is 1 free parking spot included with every affordable space. So these are just like market rate units. They have the high-end finishes and everything else. They have just been designated for this program. These 52 units are just they're being offered through this process, which I'm going to go into detail about. The unit locations, the units are spread throughout the entire building. They've been approved by Mass Housing. In developments like this, a developer cannot cluster all of these units into one corner of the building or onto one floor. They have to be evenly distributed. There's an entire review process to ensure that the developer evenly distributes the units, not just throughout the building, but also by unit type. So that's why there's a spread of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units. These rents that you see here are the rents that the people who move into these units will be paying unless they have a Section 8 voucher or some other housing subsidy. So that means if we're looking at the rent for this 2-bedroom unit that's at 65% AMI, if somebody qualifies, they're under the 65% AMI income limit, which I'll show in a minute. When they move in every month, they're going to be paying $1,767 to the management company for the rent of that unit, regardless if their income is $45,000 a year or $55,000 a year. This number doesn't change based on the individual household's income. Let's see. Oh, somebody's saying they can't read the rents. So I wish let's see. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of a newbie here with PowerPoint. I wonder if there's another way to show view reading view, normal, full screen, somebody says. I don't see that up here. Why do I not see that up here? I'm sorry for putting everybody. Nothing's more painful than watching somebody stumble through trying to let's see what happens if, okay, take a picture. No, yeah, no, you should just be able to do full screen here. Let's see, slideshow, view, normal, fit to window. No. Cancel. Sorry, I wish Catherine was here, or you know, this is one thing that is new. Slideshow from beginning. I don't know why it's set up this way. Oh, there we go. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to touch it. Okay, so here are the rents. Okay, so, and I'll get to what somebody's asking, what happens to your income changes during the process after moving in. That's a very good question. So let's just get started with what so who is eligible? So you completed a lottery application, you submit it to us, and we're screening it based on the information you disclose on that application. One of the very important questions is what your income is. It asks for all the various different sources of income, because also different sources are counted. I believe that's also in here. But so these are the income limits. So as I said, there's one, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here quickly. There's one 3-bedroom unit at 50% AMI. Your household has to have income below this threshold to qualify for that 3-bedroom unit at 50% AMI. That 50% AMI 3-bedroom rent is only $1,438 because it's geared towards somebody making only 50% of the area median income. There are 3-bedroom units where the rent is $2,523, and that's for households at 80% AMI. The income limit for an 80% AMI household is here in this last column. So, for example, if you're a 3-person household and you make $80,000 a year, you would not be eligible for that 50% AMI unit because you're over the $63,100 income limit for a 3-person household. But you would be eligible for the 3-bedroom unit at 80% AMI because you are under the maximum income limit for an 80% unit. So that is a screening that we will do. We will make sure that households, you do not actually specify what income tier you're applying for. That's just determined on your income. We do that determination at our review. When we send you, if you're eligible for the lottery and we send you your notice, you will be told what income tiers and what unit sizes for which you are eligible. Because another important thing to note is household size priority is given based on household composition, meaning that households who, for example, for a 2-bedroom unit, and this is another question that's in the application, you don't have to worry about the mechanics of this because the waiting list will be sent and we do all this sorting. But there is an important distinction in this program between household types, in that if you are a married couple, you're without any children, you're a 2-person household, you can still qualify for a 2-bedroom unit because in this program, in the mass housing programs, you have to have at least as many household members as there are bedrooms in the unit, unless you have a disability that requires an extra bedroom. But for the most part, under mass housing program, which is written here, households like a 1-person household cannot live in a 2-bedroom unit, and 2-person households cannot live in a 3-bedroom unit unless there's a disability that requires a reasonable accommodation. So going back to this part in bold about household priority given on household composition, a 2-person household who's a married couple, boyfriend, girlfriend, without any children, can apply for and will be in the lottery for a 2-bedroom unit if they meet the income parameters. But they will not be given priority over a household who's like a single parent with one child, because a single parent with one child by the mass housing guidelines requires 2-bedroom units, whereas say a married couple without any children does not require 2-bedroom units. So regardless of where that married couple without children is drawn in the lottery, they will be behind every household in the lottery who is a one-person or is a 2-person household who's a single parent with a child. Because again, in this lottery, in this process, those household types get priority. You do not need to actually, again, worry about those mechanics. We do that sorting. We establish the waiting list after the lottery and send them out to everybody so they know exactly where they stand. And you won't know, all you'll know is your position on each waiting list. You won't know, exactly what the priorities that were given, or if the household right above you, who might have been selected after you is above you because they have other priorities. That's private information, but the sort takes that all into account. I'm going to go look at a couple. It looks like we have someone from the office. I'm hoping it's Dave is answering some questions here in the chat, so that's helpful. So again, as we noted before, you can put questions in the chat right here, and we will have somebody that's available to answer those as I work our way through this deck, through this PowerPoint presentation. So going back to who is eligible, so income have to be within these parameters. Households, you can't be a 1-person household and apply for a 3-bedroom unit, or you can't even be a 1-person household and you can apply, you're just not going to be on the waiting list. Or if you're a 1-person household and you specify you want a 1- and 2-bedroom unit, but you don't have a medical need for an extra bedroom, you'll only be, and you otherwise qualify, you'll only be on the waiting list for a 1-bedroom unit, because in a mass housing program, a 1-person household can't live in a 2-bedroom unit. We also note that you can't own a home at the time of lease signing, and you can't have financial interest in the development or be a related party. So you'd still be entered into the lottery if you currently own a home, but you get notices that you cannot, that home would have to be sold by the time that you move into the affordable, or by the time you get certified and move into the affordable unit. Moving on. So verifying income and assets. What is considered income when we're looking at, does a person qualify under this 80% income threshold range? The lottery application itself will specify, will have fields for all the various types of income. You can have income from wages, you can have income from unemployment, Social Security, child support, alimony, dividends, periodic payments from friends or family. Those are all counted as well. So really anything that your household is receiving, any sort of any monies at all in this program are essentially counted as income. We also look at eventually, we have to do a full check on your assets, and that's really primarily just to see how much income your assets are earning, because the income your assets earn is put towards your overall household income. There is no hard asset limit for this property, but income earned off of assets are counted. And so additionally, we eventually, households that are asked to move forward in the process have to submit pay stubs, or bank statements of 3 months for all of their different assets, so we can review all of their different accounts to see all the activity in all of them, because if there's any money moving into those accounts, it has to be documented, it has to be explained. It's fine if you have a family friend or a parent that's giving you $300 a month to help with groceries or other costs of living, but that $300 a month that you're receiving does count towards your household income. And in that case, if we see that you're receiving those periodic payments of $300, that equates to $3,600 a year, which would be added on to the income that you receive from other sources. So if you have a job where you're making $70,000 a year and you have get $300 a month from your from a family member, which projects out to $3,600 a year. Your total household income would be considered to be $73,600. That number is going to be different than what's in your taxes. It's going to be different than what's in last year's taxes. Because again, this isn't just taxable income. The program counts everything that your household is receiving in any sort of any monies at all. So let's go into the first step of the process, which is the lottery. Right now, we are currently reviewing the lottery applications. You have until May 23rd to submit the lottery application. And we will be reviewing all lottery applications up until May 23rd. People should be getting a notice from us within, as I said earlier, about a week of submitting that their application. If they haven't heard back from us, I would say give us maybe 10 days, just given the volume of applications that we have. As I mentioned before, we've have 868 applications that have already been submitted. So hundreds are coming in every single week. But we are, as I mentioned before, as of Monday, we have processed all lottery applications. So if you submitted one in the past couple of days, it'll probably be another week or so before you hear back from us. When you're found to be eligible, you're given an application number. That would just be A and then 4 digits. And those digits are just meant to keep your application anonymous. They don't mean anything else. They're just, those application numbers are just really given in the order that applications with us are completed. So whether you're the 17th person to complete the lottery application and your application number is A0017, or you're the 1700th person and your application number is A.1700, it makes no difference at all. It's just because those are ultimately entered into random.org, which is the essentially the totally unbiased randomizer that is used for lotteries like this. The BP Boston uses it, and other states use it as well for affordable housing lotteries or other lotteries that they run. So that lottery will be run on June 5th at 6 p.m. It's going to be the same link that you use to get to this information session. All application numbers are entered into the lottery. And so everybody who's entered, every number is pulled essentially. And so everybody will have at least one position on a waiting list. If you're a household who qualifies for, say, a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom unit, because you can apply to any unit size that you want, you might not necessarily qualify it for each unit size based on your household size and other criteria, but you can certainly apply for every unit size. But if you are told when you get your application number that you're going to be in the 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom 80% AMI waiting list, after the lottery, you will find your position on the 1-bedroom waiting list for 80% AMI units and the 2-bedroom waiting list for 80% units. For the 1-bedroom 80% unit waiting list, you might have position number 37, and on the 2-bedroom, you might have position number 522. You'll have different positions based on the order that you were drawn, as well as different priorities that are applied based on household size and local preference criteria. It's a reminder put in here that, and you'll see in the lottery application what type 2 and type 3 means, but that's essentially a type 2 household is a household that needs a 2-bedroom unit. A type 3 household is a household that needs a 3-bedroom unit. So going back to what I said earlier, a 2-person household who is a single parent and a child, that is a type 2 household. A married couple who has 1 child, who happens to be 3 people, that's also a type 2 household, because by the program definitions, they just need a 2-bedroom unit. They're a 3-person household, so they can qualify for a 3-bedroom unit, but other households who actually need all 3 bedrooms will be given priority when it comes time to establishing the waiting list after the lottery. Let's see, moving on here. So we're going to run the lottery on June 5th. We send out the waiting list to absolutely everybody. And then we turn those so the waiting list, if you are in the lottery, you will be sent the waiting list so you can see what your position is on the waiting list. Unfortunately, of a lottery this size, most households will not be moving forward in the process after the lottery, because if we end up with 1,500 people in the lottery and there's only 52 units, just there's a very select few who are going to be at the top of those waiting lists who will be moving forward. The households at the top of the waiting list will be invited by the leasing office, by the property itself, to come in, schedule an appointment to complete a lease application, which is a rental application, to see the units and to be screened by them from credit, rental history, criminal background, and to make sure that they have sufficient income based on their screening criteria. The number of households screened by the leasing office may exceed the number of available units. So going back to the number of units that we have here, just using this, I'll use the 5 3-bedroom units at 80% AMI as an example. The leasing office may very well invite the top 15 households on that waiting list to come in and see the unit and complete a rental application, because and they'll let all the households know we are inviting more households than there are units. The person who has the 6th position on that waiting list will know, okay, I'm being invited to move forward, but if the top 5 households all end up getting approved and getting certified through this process, there won't actually be another unit for me because there's only 5 units. But generally in these processes, not every household who's invited to move forward does get approved. To get into this lottery, you're just completing a lottery application and disclosing your information, and there's no income verification that's done just to get into the lottery. So some households might underreport what their income is, just mistakenly. They might think it's taxable income as opposed to gross income, or some households just might not end up responding to an invitation, or some households might get denied at the rental screening because they have bad tenant history. So that's why the leasing office does invite more households than there are units available. So after the lottery, there'll probably be about 100, or maybe there'll be 150 households who are invited in the first couple of weeks right after the lottery. So in June and July, the leasing office will be inviting households who have top positions on the waiting list, having them complete rental applications. And then the very top households who complete that rental application and are approved by the leasing office on their criteria will get to reserve one of these units. But the process isn't over there. So it's right here. Applicants who've been lease approved and reserved a unit will then submit their final program certification application to us, to SCB Housing. So these select few households, they're in the lottery, they get drawn super early, they have the right priorities, they're at the top of the waiting list, they get invited by the leasing office sometime in June or July, they complete a rental application, they're approved for a unit and they reserve that unit, they know which unit that they're going to be moving into, they have an estimated move-in date, but their final step, which is a big one, is that they have to be fully vetted for program certification, which is where SCB Housing, where we come back into the picture. And that's, we will contact that household. We're very available. We pride ourselves on being available and being able to answer any questions, but the process involves submitting a lot of income and asset and tax paperwork. So it's important to note, every household, when they are given a notice from us that they're eligible for the lottery, they are given what we call a documentation requirements preparation guide. It's a very big guide, but it goes over all the various documentation that you are going to want to have ready in case you're lucky enough to move forward in the process. It talks about, if you file taxes, the taxes that you have to have ready to submit. If you haven't filed taxes, the verifications you have to get from the IRS that verify you haven't filed taxes. For for all your different jobs, you need to have 5 consecutive pay stubs. So if your household has 3 different jobs, you have to submit 15 pay stubs to us, 5 for each job. You have to document all the deposits in the past 3 months in all of your different asset accounts. So we can verify what income is coming into those accounts if it's not already clear. I mean, if it's clear it's an ADP deposit for a pay stub that we have, we don't have to ask about that. But if there's some deposit in there for $500 or $1,173, and it's not clear, then we do have to ask about that, so we can verify that the claims that the household's making under income are in fact are true, and that they are under the income limits for the program. Once they have been approved by us, then they can move into the unit and sign a lease by the scheduled move-in date. So, that's kind of the whole process in a nutshell. Let's see here. We got a couple questions. Is parking covered, garaged, or outdoors? That is actually a very good question, and one I do not have the answer to at the top of my head, but I'm going to look at, let's see here.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I got that question. I don't think there's any garage parking. I don't have any, I was looking, I don't see definitively on that, but I don't think so.
Okay. And then did you answer when approximately the units will be ready for occupants?
Yeah, starting in the summer.
Okay. Is there a picture of the apartment that we can check out?
We don't seem to have that, and it's not on the property website, but I did provide the info at SCB Housing. They can email, and I'll ask the developer if they have one they can provide.
Okay, terrific. What would refugees need to submit? That's a question. So basically they need to submit verification of their refugee status and any documentation that they have of, just showing the refugee status, showing, just similarly if they have a visa or, when they came to the country. So that's the harder part for them will be to verify that they have sufficient income to qualify for the property. So if they've established residency, or if they're over here and they're working and they can have pay stubs and everything else, that's great. The fact that they haven't filed taxes or just came over here, we'll be able to work that out with them, because it's showing that it's not a requirement that you have filed taxes, because there are some people that might have just gotten to this country and haven't actually even filed their first taxes, but they are employed here. So we would work with that applicant, to help them gather the documentation that's necessary, because taxes wouldn't be required for that household. Let's see. Future steps after lease signing. So once the lease is signed, no further screenings are needed until lease renewal. Ahead of lease renewal, you'll be asked to verify your household income and assets. Let's see if I can do this. Go back to this. You'll remain eligible for the affordable apartment as long as your household income remains at or below 140% of the area median income for the income tier that your unit is designated at. So that is, I can actually, I had, let's see, I was pulling up the info packet before, which I'll do now to show you what those income tiers look like. So they are, because the majority of the units here at 80% AMI, I'll use these numbers here. So in order to initially qualify for this opportunity, your income has to be below, these incomes shown based on household size. So For example, a household size of 2 people cannot earn more than $89,500 a year and qualify for an 80% AMI unit. But if they, at the time that we do the final certification for them, they're under that threshold, and they've already been, we're doing that final certification after they've reserved a unit, after they've been approved by the leasing office. So we do that certification. We confirm their income's under $89,500. They sign a lease, and 2 months later, they get a huge promotion, or they change jobs, they get a new great job opportunity, and they start earning more money, or they take on an extra job, to just help pay bills and everything else. At next year's certification, so let's say that we do that certification sometime in, August of 2023. They move into the unit in September of 2023. The certification that is done, and generally when we work with the development team, we end up doing these recertifications. We hope it'll be the case with this developer, because they generally do retain us. But if for a household that moves into a unit in September 2023, they will need to complete their recertification 60 days prior to their lease expiring. So if their lease expires August 31st in 2024, then they will need to complete their recertification at the end of June 2024. So when we're looking at their paperwork, they'll be contacted, generally probably in April or May by us, to remind them to send in all the paperwork. They'll be given a recertification application. They'll submit all the documentation to us at that time for April, May, or June, to reflect their current income status, or to reflect the current income that they're making. And we'll do a calculation. And if their income is above this number, but it's below 125,300, they're still eligible to stay in the unit. If they make $120,000 next year, when we do the next year's recertification, they're still eligible. It's only when households are actually over this income threshold are they no longer eligible for the program and the rent that they're paying at that income restricted, or that kind of rent controlled unit, that affordable housing unit that they live in. So this program does have that flexibility baked into it, that it does allow households to make more income than what they needed, or than what they were earning at initial qualification. Let's see here. So I hope I answered that question on what if income changes. Another question: what is the minimum income dollar amount for a 2-bedroom 80%? And is there an asset maximum amount? So there is no asset maximum, but the minimum income for a 2-bedroom unit is essentially, so earlier I said households needed to make 3 times the rent. It's actually 2.5 times the monthly rent. This information is in the information packet. I should say that again is on our website right here. When you go to sebhousing.com, there is this affordable housing opportunities page, and you would click on Allee on the Charles, and you can see the information packet is right here. And all this information and more details, you want more details on the process. This information packet is chock full of them. So, it talks about the step-by-step process. It has a breakdown of units and everything else. And also just in relation to the question on minimum income. Because the leasing office does, and they are allowed to do, they have a minimum income screening to ensure that households who move into these units can't afford the rent. They do a screening where the households essentially have to show that they make 2.5 times the rent each month, that their monthly income is 2.5 times the rent of the unit that they are applying for. So for a studio unit whose rent is $1,837 a month, a household, in order to be able to afford that, has to make about $55,000 a year. This number is essentially taking this rent, multiplying it by 2.5, being that would be the monthly income that's required, and then just multiplying it by 12 to get what that is on an annual basis. That's the household's annual income. The person specifically asked what is the minimum income for a 3-bedroom unit, and it's about $75,000 a year for the 80% unit. Rent for that unit's about $2,500 a year at $2,523. That does not include any utilities, by the way. So tenants are responsible for paying their own heating, cooking, hot water, which is all electricity, or it's all electric, I should say, and their own water and sewer. And so for that unit, which is $2,523 a year, households have to make about $75,000 a year to afford that. Now, I should note that if households have assets and they're slightly below this, but they have, enough in assets to make up the difference, they're going to be entered into the lottery. This is a very kind of cursory screening that we're doing because it does not take the place of the actual rental screening that the leasing office will do. So if a household applies and they only have $65,000 a year in income, but they have $12,000 in a checking account, or they have $25,000 in assets, that's $65,000 in annual income plus the $25,000 they have in assets. That totals $90,000 a year. They're going to be entered into the lottery because the leasing office, each leasing office kind of has its own parameters on what assets they can count and apply towards the household's income. Some leasing offices will say, we don't care how much you have in a 401k. We know you're not going to touch that, or that's not really accessible. But whatever you have in a checking and savings account, we will count that towards your income for the purposes of doing that initial screening. So that may be more information that you're actually looking for, but this again is that is the number. Are there any other questions that let's see, can assets be drawn on to pay rent if income is low? Yeah, so I hope that answered that. So that is a question for the leasing office when they do the rental eligibility screening for you. But if you do have liquid assets, yeah, they would allow you based on based on the asset type that it is, they would factor that into the way that they qualify you for a unit. I've just been talking nonstop for 50 minutes straight. That is a lot of information to go over. And I'm happy to continue to answer questions. I will say, I'm going to go back to this slide real quickly. Again, for the most important thing is to, if you haven't applied already, get your application in. The jot form online is the easiest way to do it. But again, you can email us if you want us to email you a PDF application that you complete by hand. You can call us. We'll call you back if you have any questions on the application. And again, on our website, which I just showed, we do have the application. We do have the application available, the lottery application available right here, which you can download, print out, or fill out using Adobe or whatever, and you'd end up emailing it to us at info@SCB Housing, and that would be screened, same as if you complete the jot form here. And then again, if you want more information, the info packet here is a very good resource. That's what I was going through. It goes through the step-by-step process. It has the details on the units that are available. It has this little write-up here. Allee on the Charles is a new 204 unit rental community. It's located on 15 Riverdale Avenue, Newton. It's got a courtyard, interior, it's got a common lounge space, a fitness center. Units have washer dryers, high-end finishes. So, you know, obviously this is really a high-end luxury development that has that 52 units here are available to people that qualify for the program. There is one parking space that is available for and I'm sorry, there's one parking space that's included with every affordable unit for free, so you don't have to pay for that. Pets are allowed, subject to a restriction. It looks like they have a 100-pound weight limit and a couple breed restrictions and limit of 2 pets per unit. Yeah, I should note too that there are some of these units are have disabled accessible or sensory special features. So when it comes time to apply, you'll be asked if you require those features. And you know, if you do require them, there are separate waiting lists for the people that do require those features. And verification of need will be required at a later date. That will be done at the final certification screening. I'm going to close this out, stop the share, and stare into my computer camera. So yeah, that's are there any other questions? I mean, we can you know, people can unmute themselves and ask, they can put it in the chat here. You know, that's the gist of the program. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer, stick around for a couple minutes, but and again, if you want to ask something privately, email info@sebhousing.com, call 617-782-6900, dial extension 1, leave a message. We check those constantly. You'll be called back within a day. You'll be able to speak to somebody from our team.
I know you said this at the beginning, but I got on late because I was on the wrong Zoom. Is it first come, first serve, or how does it work? It's like you just get a number randomly?
Yeah, it's a lottery. I mean, we already have 68 applications for this. We'll probably end up having over 1,500 when all's said and done. Yeah, if you are eligible, you get an application number, which is just a kind of a placeholder, so that when we actually run the lottery, we're not calling out anybody's names. And then based on the order that households are drawn in that lottery, and also based on need of a unit, as far as kind of household type goes, they'll be sorted and put on waiting lists. And once those waiting lists are established, that is the order that households will get to move forward in the process. Or I should say maybe not get to move forward, because given how many people there are, like for the 2-bedroom units, we might have 500 people on those waiting lists, because everybody who's entered or is eligible for the lottery will be drawn and will be given a position on a waiting list. Now, if you have position number 470 on a waiting list, well, yes, you are on a waiting list. You're not going to be moving forward in this process, because you need 469 people to decline the opportunity to move into a unit before you were given a chance. So those waiting lists are established, everybody has a position, but really it's just the households out at the very top of those waiting lists who move forward in the process.
And if you have, well, so I know you said like there's priority for some. And so if you're in priority, is there going to be like 2 separate drawings?
Yep, there is a there is, let's see here. Yep,
It's
there's a local preference drawing, and then there is just a general drawing. So now households who qualify for local preference, only those will be in the local preference drawing. But if you want to get really, you want me to geek out on this, I can, but the whole thing is the local preference while local preference gives you priority over households of similar size as you, it does not give you preference over if you are a smaller household size and have local preference, you do not get priority over a larger non-local preference household. So local preference really is only good in giving priority. So for example, if you are a married couple with no children who's applying for a 2-bedroom unit, you can still get on that 2-bedroom waiting list. And if you're a local preference household who qualifies for local house preference by either currently living in Newton or working in Newton, or having a kid in the local school, like such as a MECO student. Why am I forgetting the current resident Newton, employees of the city of Newton, or employees of a local business located in Newton, which is a little bit redundant because if you're an employee of the city of Newton, you work in Newton, but or households with children attending a Newton school, such as MECO students. So if you are a 2-person household who's a married couple without children, you're considered a type 1 household because you only need a 1-bedroom unit. You will be on the 2-bedroom waiting list because you have 2 people, so you're not prohibited from being on that 2-bedroom waiting list. Whereas a 1-person household who doesn't have a medical need is not even going to be on the 2-bedroom waiting list. So, but as a, and I can show this, let me try to do screen share again here. This is in the info packet, but these are the, this is how the waiting lists are established. So for that, 2-bedroom, 80% local preference units, if you're a local preference household who needs 2 bedrooms, you'll be in that top tier. So even if you're drawn last in the lottery, you'll still have a position on a waiting list that's ahead of everybody else who's in one of these other tiers. So if you're a non-local preference household and you apply, you're still actually on the local preference waiting list. It's in Mass Housing in the state changed this a little while ago. So for example, we have 500 people in the 2-bedroom that apply for the 2-bedroom 80% units. And there are 100 people who qualify for this tier. The 500 person drawn in the lottery, the very last person drawn in the lottery will have the 100th position on the waiting list. Because all other type 3 and type 2 local preference households who are drawn ahead of them will occupy spots on the waiting list ahead of them. A non-local preference household who's type 3 or type 2, who's drawn first in the lottery, the first number drawn, they'll still on this waiting list, they'll have position 101 because they will be behind the 100 households who were local preference, who were type 3 and type 2. Now, if we have 50 people in this tier, then the top tier and the second tier together will have 150 people on it. And then the third tier will start being populated by type 1 local preference households. So going back to the example I gave, if you are a married couple without children who lives in Newton, you do qualify for a 2-bedroom unit. And let's say you're drawn second overall in the lottery out of 800 people. For the 2-bedroom unit you're applying for, you're going to be below 150 people in this example. So you'd have the 151st position because regardless of where all these other people are drawn, they're given priority and will have a higher position for the 2-bedroom unit. Now, if you're drawn second overall, and like I said, the first person drawn was a type 3 or type 2 non-local household, and you want a 1-bedroom unit, you would have, and you're a local preference a household, you would have the number 1 position for the 1-bedroom unit. So being drawn really early is great for you to match you to the unit size that you need, but being drawn super early isn't really going to do you any benefit here, because if you're trying to apply for a unit that's slightly bigger than what the program says you actually need. So when we do lotteries of this size and there's thousands of applicants, the households who do get these units are going to be the ones who have all the top priorities. So I guess that's just another way of saying it. That really, when we have this many applications, and really, unless you qualify for all the the priorities in the top tier, you're going to be below dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of households on the waiting list.
So with the priority status, do you, for local preference, I mean, do you, say like somebody works in Newton versus someone has a child in Newton, is there one priority that's above another?
Good question. And no, there isn't. Somebody who works in Newton, lives in Newton, and has a kid in the public schools does not have a higher priority over somebody who just meets one of those criteria. It's basically a binary approval. Either you have local preference or you don't. Either you meet one, if you meet one criteria, all of them, you still just qualify as local preference.
Thank you.
You got it. Any other questions?
Sorry to be redundant, but so will you, if you have local preference, will there be two separate lotteries? Like, so that your number you'll have two chances for your number to be pulled?
Yep,
Okay.
you will. You'll be drawn in both. You're not redundant at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. And again, the most important thing is, get the application and get the application number back from us. If you have any questions, there's a lot of details in the application number. If you have questions, and there'll be an X next to all the unit types that you qualify for. If you have any questions about that, just respond to the email, or no, I should say that's coming from a no reply account. So you would reply to info@SCB Housing, and we'll get back to you. There's one other question here about if you're pregnant, does the child count toward the household number, and it does. So for this program, it does. There's someone there it doesn't. For 40B, it does. So good question. All right. Any other questions? I hope you all found this informative. And as I said, info@scbhousing.com. If you have any more questions, or the website, we're always available. Best of luck, everybody. Good luck.